Greetings, another journey. And this journey has been a long time coming because our guest got in touch with me a long time ago. I forgot when they got in contact with me. I think it was like last November, I believe it was, and many reasons why they didn't go on to the journey until now. But they're here now and they're sharing their journey. But their journey is because they are an artist, they're a creative visionary, they're a priestess, they're a shaman, and an author. Art has been a consistent thread throughout her life, whether it's been a painting, writing, or working with others. It is based on a spiritual journey through a shamanic work practice and a strong connection to the natural world, which is natural world is amazing because natural things is pretty strong. I believe it is. So for almost 20 years, she was a life coach and a personal trainer, a career that has involved out her own experience transforming life through bodybuilding. During that time, she's developed a 12-week transformational program using the body as a vehicle for transforming your entire life. Currently, our guest's work is a combination of painting, design, and writing. She transforms their paintings into fabrics and creates clothing, blankets, and pillows with the intention of bringing the energy of her artwork into physical forms you can touch. They are luxurious, sensual, and filled with um, I have to read this, filled with the love that she puts into everything she creates. The physical sensation and I'm trying to read this. The physical sensation you experience through pieces you can transport you to deeper sense of yourself, reminding you of who you are on a physical level. They have the potential of bypassing your mind, your beliefs about yourself, and thoughts that hinder your freedom to feel freely and be fully who you are. So I say no more because, as I always say, not my journey. Even though I could go on and on about reading about her, it's Deborah's journey. So I welcome Deborah finally to the journey.
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure to finally meet you and have a chance to share.
You're welcome,
Thank you for
and
inviting.
it's a pleasure. Now, as you've heard me say about your journey from that little bit, that's not just your journey. Now we could talk about that, and we are going to talk about that. And the journey is unique for everyone. And I always do refer to certain elements, and it does seem repetitive. And I always say, "What is your journey?" And yes, people do say, "I was this, I was this," but everyone has a unique journey, and you would agree everyone's journey is unique, and you would agree my journey is unique because of this. So tell me, because I know your journey is unique. So tell me, what was your earliest memories that made your journey unique to you?
Hmm. Well, my very earliest memory is actually of conception. I know not many people remember that, but I have a very vivid memory of it, and it was not pleasant. Um, my soul knew that I had made an agreement to come in and come into what turned out to be a very challenging life. Um, but my first experience, my first memory is of being this enormous soul and having to squeeze into this tiny little space. And I was grief stricken actually at having to do that, but I knew that that was what I agreed to and that was what I needed to do. It set the tone for what has turned out to be now over 7 decades of journeying, at least in this lifetime. And that experience of being a huge soul, having to squeeze into a space that was too small for me, has been pretty much what my life was like for most of these decades. I came into a family that did not have any sense of who I was, could not understand me or appreciate me. And I never felt seen or heard or any sense of belonging in the family that I was raised in. It set me on a course of seeking for who I was, and and not just who I was in this world that we live in, this physical world, but the truth of who I was, this huge soul that came into this tiny space. Who was that? And I knew very early on that I was here for a purpose. I remember being a little child, and I remember sitting in the back of my parents' car when we were traveling and looking at the clouds out the window, and this awareness that I have that kept coming to me. I know I'm here for a reason. But as a little kid, I couldn't articulate it quite that way. I just always knew that there was more to me and more to my life and my journey than appeared on the surface. So you ask where the seeds began at a very, very early time on my journey in this particular lifetime.
Yeah, and you touch upon the way you say about conception. Yes, and I often say this as a way of making the ice break, breaker for the conversation. Yes, you are born, and that is true because you are born. Some people do remember, yes, you are born because conception, you are born, you're given birth, you go on through the vagina. I know it's graphic, and I'm always just open about the fact you are open, you are born through the
Mhm,
vagina, you're open, born through the stomach, however you're born. Naturally, you are born through the vagina,
mhm.
so that is the more natural way. But, growing up, after being born, you are exploring a lot of things. You are naive. You're exploring a lot of things. That's why conceived the idea of the journey because you're looking for a lot of ideas. You
I've
know,
always been looking for myself,
yeah,
looking
exactly.
for the truth,
Yeah,
actually. It's looking for the truth.
exactly. And, for myself, as an only child, in a single mum, my mum's a single parent. It was difficult because my mum was raising me by herself. It's difficult. I was learning things, but, independently because she was struggling.
Right.
You know, I was trying to find those steps in life. It was difficult. I had to
Mhm.
encounter a lot of things by myself because
Yeah.
my mum didn't have. I'm not saying she had it difficult because she tried to raise me the best way she can, and I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying not to be critical because I know my mum had difficulties, and I know I have my difficulties with my mum now, and if she listens, I don't want her to be critical, thinking I'm being judgmental on her. I'm not, but I know she had difficulties.
Well,
But
let me just say, having been a single mom myself, uh, Lord knows I know I made plenty of mistakes.
mm,
Um, but when I look at the bigger picture, I see that what I call mistakes, just like when I look at my mother and see all the quote unquote mistakes that she made, we are all raising ourselves and dealing with our own challenges while we're raising children. And the children that we raise are both teaching us and learning from us. My son is dealing with the effects of um, not just what he experienced with me, but his own issues that he was born into this world to deal with.
Mm.
We come into the families we're meant to come into. We choose them. That's my belief and experience. So what we call mistakes or challenges, those are the lessons that we're here to learn. Um, I don't necessarily believe in mistakes in
Mm.
life. I think we each choose our path, and along the way, we're learning lessons and evolving. And if we misstep or get off our path, um, then we need to make adjustments.
Mm.
But uh, I can tell you, as a single mom, um, it's not easy.
Mm.
It's really not easy because there are reasons that we're single parents and we have to deal with our own damage, let's just say, while we're raising our children. Um, we can only do the best that we can do at the time because we're all learning, you
But
know.
but as I was saying about the purpose of the journey, you go on a freeway, as they call it in America, or motorway.
Mhm.
You go on the main road. You go on the main road, but what happens? You have to turn off. You have to go off to the surface station. You have to fill up with gas. You have to go off on a diversion.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the journey. You can't just automatically go straight there unless you just go
It's
in a short distance. But if you go
yes.
and say, for example, and this is a classic example, if it was me going to see my grandparents, as it was the case, you couldn't just go from A to B on a single tank of gas. You had to go off and get gas and
Right.
then stretch your legs.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that was the purpose
Yeah.
of the journey, because you had to go off and take a diversion to get gas.
Yeah. And what I've found from those diversions is um, the things that I've thought immediately were, uh, oh my God, I can't believe this happened, have most often turned out to be exactly what I needed to shift me just enough on my path to get me further along where I need to go and wanted to go.
Yeah,
Because none of us really know where we're going. We
mm,
think we do.
yeah.
Um,
And then the same goes for, obviously, when you're growing up in school. No one's expected you to be perfect in school. No one expects you to be perfect in college. And that's the example I give. I was not perfect in school. Yeah, I may have the experience now of interviewing people on the journey. I may have experience of being on the radio when I've had experience on the radio. I may have experience of immigrating to America, but I not had it easy.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not saying I've had it easy. I've had a rough time, but I'm 41 now. Your age, I'm not going to say your age. You've told your age in
Oh,
decades.
it doesn't matter to me. It
You've to,
really,
you told it in decades, but you're not exactly saying
I'm
I've not
72. I'm 72.
21 for purposes because that's my way of being respectful. But you're
It, not, it doesn't matter. The number
exactly,
doesn't matter.
exactly. But the point is, you're just saying your journey's not been easy.
No, has not been easy at all. But it's all made me who I am. And I really wouldn't change any of it.
Same here.
Yeah. Do I want to live through it again? No, not really. But I
I,
wouldn't change it.
exactly, and I agree to that mine as well.
Yeah.
I made a lot of mistakes. Would I change it? No.
Yeah.
Could I change it? I wish I could.
You know, I don't
there is
I
this
don't spend time in regrets or wishing that things had been different. Um, I just move forward.
the thing
I
is,
just move as, just move forward because I can't change. Now, I will say I can't change the past, but here's what I will say about that. Many years ago, I was visited by a shamanic rabbi astrologer. He came kind of out of the blue, and um, he gifted me with a reading. And in that reading, he told me, and I won't go into the whole thing, but one of the things he said was that I was here for a very specific purpose, and that only I could fulfill this purpose. And if I chose to do the work, and he did not outline what that work was because he didn't know, if I chose to do the work that I was here to do in the time frame that presented itself for me to do it, I would shift everything in my lineage, going back lifetimes and going forward lifetimes. And they were patterns that only I could shift. His suggestion with that was that somehow by doing this work, I could literally shift history. Um, Having had the experiences that I've had in the past couple of years, I've begun to see how that could possibly be.
hmm,
Um, so, can we change the events that happened? Not necessarily, but can we shift the patterns that caused those events to happen? I do believe we can.
yeah.
Don't ask me how. I'm not sure how. I just know that some things that I've been through in my shamanic work have shown me that I have shifted some
Hmm.
things.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. And the only reason like I said, the only reason I wish I could change things is because I just feel like I could have been a better person. But at the same time, if I look back, it just would have made me not where I am now. That's how I look at it. But at the same time, they've seen how my past is and they know what I've done wrong. I'm not going to highlight it because it's not me to highlight it. And I think I have highlighted it in several podcasts, but I've been given that chance. So, and I'm in America now. So, regardless of what I've done in my past, I'm still in America. That's how I look at it. So I'm blessed, regardless of what I've done in my past, I'm still in America.
Well, let me ask you this. Given who you were at
Mm,
the time that you made certain choices that you wish you could change,
mm.
could you have done it any differently? Did you have the capacity then to make a different choice
Well,
or action?
the major thing I did wrong at the time was when I was 16.
But you were 16. Did you have the ability at 16, knowing what you knew, being raised the way you were raised, in the environment you were in, could you really have made any different choices?
Honestly, no.
Probably not.
But
You did the best you could at 16 with what you had.
mm, agreed. But it's just that mindset that I wish I,
I know, I get it. And it really doesn't do us any good to dwell at all, to put any energy into things that cannot be altered.
no. And that's why I don't think of it because I know if it was a major fault in my process, I would have like been thinking if they thought of it, I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't be in America.
Hmm. Right.
But at the
Right.
same,
And if the only thing that I would say about the choices we make and the effects of those choices, if they hurt someone else, then all we can do is try to right the wrongs that have affected someone else, to make amends, to do better. Um, but when it comes to just us and the choices we make that set us on a certain path, there's there's nothing to do.
hmm,
It's really, I mean, they're the only things that and I don't dwell on them, but I make sure that if I make a choice that affects someone else and it's not the best that I can do at that time, I am not being the best I can be. I just make sure that I do what I can to make things right with them.
yeah,
That's
and
all I can do.
and like I said, that's why I can relate to certain things when I do relate on the journey because I can relate.
Hmm.
And that's why I do talk about it in the way I do talk, because I do want to relate. But when I do try and relate, I try and relate into the context. I can say if it's relatable in the way I can say it's relatable and I can relate and I can talk about it freely, or I can
Hmm.
relate and say I can relate, but I don't want to talk about it, but
Yeah,
I can allude to it.
right.
And then that's where the ethos goes into amuse, educate, because this is what I'm doing. I'm educating about it's okay to talk about the past, but you don't have to talk about it. So I'm educating
Yeah.
in that sense, and I'm inspiring people to talk about your past, but you don't have to
Hmm.
completely let go of that. But it's okay to talk about it,
Yeah.
and you can observe because that's what I'm doing. I'm observing to say I'm observing you to say, okay, I'm observing her behavior. It's okay to talk about it.
Yeah. It is. Sometimes it's,
And I'm
yeah.
understanding it's okay to be that way.
Yeah.
So the IEIOU, as I call it.
I I think the hardest thing for people who've been through a lot and are not necessarily proud of everything that they've done, as is probably just about every human being. I think it's really important to realize that when we share our humanity, our vulnerabilities, our faults, or what we call our faults and our flaws, it opens the door for others to feel less alone, um, because we've all got that. None of us are immune. If we're human, we're not immune to making mistakes or having things in our past that we're not real proud of. And so the more people can share all of themselves, the good, the bad, the the courageous and the weak,
Hmm.
um, it does is give somebody else a lot of space to feel like it's okay to be who they are.
Yeah.
I remember that very clearly when I was a trainer and a coach. I remember one of my clients, um, one day I had shared something with her, and she said, "Oh my God," she said, now that I can really see that you're just human," because she was holding me up on this pedestal. She said, "The more human you are," she said, "the more inspired I am." And I feel like I don't remember the exact words, but it was like, please don't try to be perfect because it's good for all of us when you share your own frailties and mistakes. And it opened up a lot for me. And as I was leading my program and then over the years coaching people uh and now even writing my book, I've shared an awful lot that would uh take me down right off that pedestal. Um and show just how human I am, because we all are. None of us are up here. We're we're all flawed.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. It was really a gift to me
Mm.
because I up until then felt so much like um I had to be something more than what I was in order to be valuable. Something not perfect, but
Did you
better.
f- did you feel like you, and this is the way I always felt, did you always feel like you had to feel like you had a validation of wearing a badge to say I am,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and people, and this is what I always got told off about when I was growing up, and even in the, what I did, it's not like it's like you shouldn't wear the badge saying I am David, or in your case I am Deborah. It's about doing things quietly and not wearing that badge saying I am Deborah, I am David in my case.
Mhm.
You do things quietly and you get recognized by doing things quietly.
Yeah, there's a difference between um, doing things quietly and with humility and not for the validation.
Hmm.
And and then also there's a difference between that and being falsely humble, like diminishing yourself because you don't want to seem like you're bragging or um, celebrating yourself too much. When I was brought up, I was torn down so much that I felt both like I had to be something that I wasn't, and it was not okay for me to say anything good about myself. I had to learn that celebrating myself, speaking well of myself, my accomplishments, um, my strengths is there's not only nothing wrong with that, it's like saying, Spirit gave me these gifts, and these gifts are here to share and to better everyone around me. Why would I want to hide that? Why would I want to diminish myself um and hide out? I don't. What the more I shine my light, the more I give others the space to do the same. It's
Hmm.
not about bragging. It's not about saying, oh, look who I am. But it's also not about stepping into the background all the time and um, and hiding our gifts.
Yeah.
There's a fine line there. And it's taken me a good long lifetime to be able to stand in my own light. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
There's um to be able to say, this is who I am, not as bragging, but just as a statement of being. This is who I am.
Yeah, because the example I always, like I said, I don't mind sharing my journey alongside your journey. It's like for 10 years, well, for the 10 years I would give of this example, for the first couple of years, I was shy. I was timid. The person who would always say this about me, I don't mind giving this example, would always say that I was shy, timid. But then when I was out that shower, I was always wanting it all to be about me, about the attention, David, 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 that sort of thing. It's not about David, 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 you know. And then it came to the sense of David should do things about doing things quietly. That's what will get you recognized more if David do things quietly. And I started doing things quietly. And then the person who saw that was like, David, you're doing things quietly. You're recognized more for doing that, and you're valued for doing that.
Hmm.
Toward that 10-year end of that 10-year period, you're valued, David. You recognize David. People recognizing that, David. Well done, David. At the end of
Hmm.
that 10-year period, congratulations, David. People seen how much you've grown. I can value you, David. You've grown a lot, David. You've been missed, David. That's the way I've grown.
Hmm.
And then at the end of that 10-year period, and just before I left, David is one of our most valued people, gone is the way he was, hiding away, not looking at anyone. He now looks at you eye to eye. He's one of our most dependent people. You ask David to do something, he'd be quick to put his hand up. That's the sort. So gone from shy to putting his hand up. That's how. And not about me wearing a badge to say validation, David. So it was like,
Yeah.
so from shy badge wearing
Yeah.
to doing something quietly, being dependable.
Because
So,
when you did, from what I am hearing, when you did that, it was not about you. It was not about getting validation.
mm,
And and I think that's kind of what, we're saying the same thing is when you can validate yourself and you don't need it from others, then it's not so much about whether you're quiet or you're not. It's the energy behind what you're doing and the purpose. Um, Probably, I'm hearing that you may have been feeling very similar to the way I was feeling growing up as um, insecure and didn't have a good sense of yourself. I mean, pardon me if I'm misspeaking, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. There was some insecurity there and a need for validation because you weren't validated by others. When I needed validation from something or someone outside myself, whatever I did had a different energy behind it than the way I am in my life now, which is I don't need validation from anybody because I give it to myself.
mm,
And so whatever I do is coming from a different place.
yeah,
It's not for validation. It's to make a contribution. It's to share something that I find beautiful. It's to enrich my own life and others.
yeah,
Uh, so I think very much as we're growing and we grow into ourselves, the need for outside validation diminishes. And um, maybe it's a sense of maturity that we can do what we do in the world with more grace. Um, and I think that's recognized and appreciated.
it is. And, the podcast, I started this just before COVID started getting, the pandemic, as I refer to it more than
Yeah,
COVID.
yeah.
I started this just before it started getting high, the peaks getting high. And
Hmm.
it was just there's, I wasn't isolated as such, but I just wanted to make that difference.
Yeah,
It's over 150 episodes now. I think over the last few episodes, I started looking at the numbers. It's over 150 episodes.
that's amazing.
It,
That's quite a contribution.
and it's just it's a contribution, and it's just that difference.
Yeah.
I don't look at it as a big difference compared to some podcasts, but I see it's a difference to those people I've reached, and those people I have reached. I'm amazed that I've reached those people, and to those people I have reached, I'm thankful for.
Yeah. I love
And
that. I love what you're doing because um, we all are on a journey.
mm,
Um, Sharing our journeys with others, I don't, to me, that's so much of what life is about. I mean,
yeah,
that's why I wrote my book because, I had a vision decades ago of sharing my journey, only I didn't know what I was sharing back then. I had to wait until I knew what I was sharing before I could actually write the book. Um, but I'm so excited to share this because it lights me up. It's the possibility that it could have an impact on someone else's life to uh, give them an inkling into their own journey to make a difference somewhere, to know that everything that I've been through and the way that I've been through it and share it could actually impact someone else. It just it this is just, I mean, my soul calls me to do this.
yeah,
Um, I I've I the best parts of my life, I think, are when I've known that I've had an impact, a positive impact on someone else's life.
mm.
It just makes everything else worth it.
And that's a good segue into talking about your book. And where is your book available? Because
Well,
people
my book
obviously,
is right now being formatted and getting ready for publication. So we're hoping that it's going to be out in March. It's called Remembering Myself, A Journey Through the Threads of Time. Um, it is, it's a very unique way of telling my story because my story um, came to me through decades of painting. I mean, I am an artist and I've been an artist since I was a child. It's just kind of who I am. And I have over 100 images in the book that are as, I would say, as expressive of parts of my journey as the words are. And there's a lot of my poetry in the book as well, because I've seen in looking back that both my paintings and my poetry, along with the writing that I've done over many, many decades, have been very prophetic. They've shown they're kind of like little breadcrumbs that spirit has planted for me to show me where I was on my journey and where I needed to go. And so the book is it's a it's woven in and out of time. It's a book that you could open really at any page and glean value. So the story is both chronological and not because it goes back and forth. It's a very unusual book, and I'm having it printed in such a way so there's going to be lots of full color images. It's going to be a beautiful book. Um, the conclusion of the book, and I'll just say this because it's now that it's really like a year and a half to 2 years since that conclusion actually happened, all I want to say to anyone who's listening and is going to read the book is that that conclusion is really just a beginning. And there's so much more to come. And now I'm really thinking about writing the next the next book, because what happened at that conclusion shifted my life like forever, to the point where my life is not the same life as it was before that event happened. Um, I don't want to say too much about it. It's just it's a very unusual, and it's really exciting.
So that's amazing
It
to.
will be available on Amazon, and it will also be available through my website. So anyone can go to my website and just sign up on my mailing list, and you'll have access.
And your website is.
It is dkhillard.com.
And that will be in the description
Yes. So
below.
everything, there will be links on that page to everything, all of my fabric creations, what I call raptures, all of my publications, all of my writing. I've been published in many different anthologies, and all of my paintings and prints.
Okay. And the last ultimate question. We want to conclude by sharing inspiration with others because we've been talking about the past, we've been talking about the present, we've been talking about sharing journeys together, but obviously we want to share inspiration with others to help them go on their journey. And I always like to say, share something to help people with their journey. So, what would you share with people to help on their journey, to help them
Mm.
progress in their life, to help them fulfill their journey? What would you say to them?
The most important thing that I've found, and this is truly the work that I do with people, all of our journeys, with all of the twists and turns, ultimately are about our fulfillment in life. For those of us who are willing to do the work of knowing who we truly are, and I'm talking about not our personality, not the roles that we play or the identity that we have adopted, but the truth of our soul's essence. Doing that work, really knowing your own soul and why you're here on this earth now, is the most important work that any of us can do. Because if we want the world that I think most of us want, where there's harmony between humans, animals, the planet, where we're appreciating one another and learning from one another as opposed to judging one another, it has to begin with knowing ourselves. Once we know and love ourselves, then we're coming from our truth, our heart and soul in everything that we do. When you come from that place, only good can come of that. When we're all sharing our gifts, the gifts that only we were given on to no one can do what I do in the way that I do it. No one can do what you do in the way you do it.
Mm.
By being fully ourselves and sharing our gifts, we give the world, I mean, we're literally spreading treasures throughout the world. We are given these gifts to share and make the world a better place. that can only happen when we know who we are and what those gifts are, and we have the courage to be that and share that. So that work is the most important work I could tell anyone to do.
I agree totally. Deborah, thank you for sharing your journey with us today.
It's just been such a pleasure, David. I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity and for doing what you do.
Thank you.
And I would be happy to come on anytime and share with you.
And anytime you got my email address, yes, you can come back anytime.
I would love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This little bonus bite is from Amy. Amy is an author stroke poet, whichever one you want to describe her as. This is a short journey. Amy. Amy, it's over to you.
Hello, I am Amy Harrison. I'm the author of the book Feline Warrior Part 1 and Part 2, a fictional story that is written in a poetic format that is based on real-life events that could happen to anyone and intended only for relatable purposes. This story claws into Catgirl's past abuse. Catgirl is human and part feline, but truly a warrior who can handle anything because she is strong and fierce. She has been taken advantage of for far too long. Join her on her journey as she reaches freedom. Here are some poems from Feline Warrior. Tears flow. I no longer know what to do. I am no longer who I once was, and it is because I made a choice to use my voice, and that is okay, because what I had to say was true, unlike me and you. Now I see. I am free. I am me. I am Catgirl. Ultimately, be you. Always stay true. Do what you want to do, because every day is made new. If you want to read more, visit the link in the description. Meow at you later. The Journey Podcast explores stories of personal growth, challenges, and life-changing moments. Each episode dives into unique experiences, offering insights and inspiration for listeners navigating their own paths. I believe everyone has a story worth sharing. If you'd like to share your journey with David and others, email your story to wisewords1983@reborn.com, and it may be featured in a future episode.